Well, good afternoon. We want to welcome you this afternoon to a special meeting of the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court set for today, June 8, 2016. President R. Commissioner Cuellar, Precinct 1, Commissioner Palacios, Precinct 4, and myself, we have a quorum. Please join us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie? Here, you can use this.
Bless us, O Lord, as we undertake this special briefing in this meeting of Commissioners Court with the mayors of our 22 cities in Hidalgo County. May you help us to make proper decisions and the right decisions and work collaboratively. In Jesus' name we ask this. Amen.
Amen.
Well, welcome to all of you. This is your new administrative office of the County Commissioners. We call this the Commissioners Courtroom Annex. And I'm very happy to see all of you here. And it took a little mosquito to get us all together, but we are here. The only issue that the issue that we have set for today is under our Health Department, Mr. Eddie Olivares. Presentation and discussion on the development of community-based collaboration for the prevention of mosquito-borne illnesses to encourage public education, illness prevention, and arboviral intervention with our private, public, and governmental entities. Mr. Olivares?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Sir, may I proceed?
Ya vamos mal de día. It's afternoon.
Sir, I think you had a statement you wanted to read, or do you want me to go ahead and start?
No, go ahead.
All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Eddie Olivares. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for Hidalgo County Health and Human Services. And I'd like to acknowledge County Judge Garcia and the Commissioners Court and each of the commissioners for allowing this meeting to take place. It is a very important time. As you know, there's been a lot of issues recently with rain events here in Hidalgo County. We've had our share of several rain events. And is it on? Test. It's on. Okay. We've had our share of several rain events, as you know, and there's a growing concern with the mosquito population. In the past in Hidalgo County, there has been a history of complications with mosquito-borne illnesses. We have had dengue cases. We've had West Nile cases. We've had chikungunya cases. And now we have the newest mosquito-borne illness. Well, not the newest. It's been around since 1947. But one of the ones that's emerging to be very complicated is Zika. As you all have been hearing in the news and watching on television and listening on the radio, the concern for us is when I address this issue, I've been working with the county judge's office. I've been working with Chief Saldaña through emergency management and working with our various partners as well, that we have been coordinating efforts for the future in the event of an outbreak. The situation for us is, right now I want to make it very clear, there are 0 cases of Zika in Hidalgo County. 0, not 1. There is no infected mosquitoes with Zika in Hidalgo County that we're aware of, and we've been getting support from the state laboratory. There isn't any. However, we know that there is infected mosquitoes and there is localized Zika in southern Mexico, central and southern Mexico. We know right now we're getting into our rainy season and hurricane season where the conditions are going to be optimum to create a heavily concentrated mosquito period, as some of you already know, walking outside in some areas. The other concern is the type of mosquito we're going to be dealing with. Actually, it's interesting because I've had people call me up and say, well, what do we need to do to just get rid of all mosquitoes? Well, it's impossible. You can't do that. So what I wanted to do with the Commissioner's Court permission, I'll have a quick PowerPoint presentation that we could go over. There's some key people I'd like to introduce here. The Hidalgo County Health and Human Service staff, please stand, please. You guys stand, please. These are the people who've coordinated. We have Steve, who's our lead epidemiologist. Sakshi, who's our one of our other EPIs. Misty Palacios, she's executive assistant, is overseeing all the marketing and education of this. We have Nancy Trevino, who is our coordinator for public health preparedness and assisting with us on those issues. So we're all working very closely with emergency management. Thank you. And Sakshi, actually, you have to understand something. Sakshi Puri, she is actually considered one of the state experts on mosquitoes, and she's part of our team. So she's been asked to speak at various state conferences involving mosquitoes, and she is very, very well versed in dealing with these issues and understands it. So all our EPI team is very well, but Sakshi has actually researched them and done work. So thank you. And Sakshi is the one that actually helped produce the presentation. She may come up with it in a little bit in the presentation, and we'll go from there. I'll pause right now if there's any brief questions before we get into the presentation. The presentation is going to explain a lot of things. In your packet, you have a lot of information. There's a lot of information in your packet regarding mosquito-borne illnesses. There's copies. Feel free. This is open information. You could photocopy. You could scan and put on your websites. You could do, this is for you to do what you want. But the worst thing that can happen, that if you get it, throw it in your truck and it never leaves your truck. That's the worst thing that can happen. What's important is that you need to use this material, and we'll go from there. We'll go ahead and get started, Judge, with your permission to give the quick presentation, and then we'll open it up to questions and discussion and look at what we can do, okay? So, first of all, Hidalgo County Health and Human Services is helping coordinate this. Let me talk about mosquitoes for a little bit. A lot of people don't think of mosquitoes as deadly, but they have the potential to be. If you sit down and look at these figures, when you look at the fact that, you know, how many people per year throughout the world get killed by different animals. I think this presentation is in your packet also. 10 people a year get killed by sharks and wolves, but you hear about shark attacks all the time on television, right? Here you have crocodiles kill 1,000 people a year worldwide. Dogs, 25,000 people a year worldwide are killed by dogs. But when you look at humans, we as humans kill 475,000 other humans. But we're not the worst. The worst is mosquitoes. Every year, 725,000 people throughout the world die from mosquito-borne illness and concerns. That little critter, it's very, very dangerous. And it's very important to understand that these illnesses, of course, the majority of these illnesses are very impoverished countries, very impoverished areas, not necessarily in the United States. However, those illnesses mutate and change in those high poverty areas in the world, and they migrate to different parts of the world. And that's why we have the current problem with Zika, because it's migrated and mutated and changed and is impacting humans differently now. So that's a huge issue for us. Zika, I'm not going to get into. Hidalgo County has 25 different types of mosquitoes. 25 different types of mosquitoes. Right now in Hidalgo County, we are conducting our trapping. I'm going to talk about that in more detail. But Sakshi, right now we're looking at 9 different types we've caught consistently. Approximately 9 different types of mosquitoes. There's one that there's actually 2, but the one we're really interested in is a mosquito called the Aedes aegypti. That little mosquito is the one that we're really concerned about, because not only does this one cause problems with Zika, but it also causes problems with dengue. Now, some of you here know about the dengue situation in Reynosa and in Mexico. 5 years ago, there was over 5,000 cases of dengue in Reynosa. And the media from Mexico is, yeah, it's true. You know, and we had over 600 that were hemorrhagic dengue, which is you're bleeding from the eyes, the ears, very, very, very nasty, nasty illness. Well, the same mosquito that causes that is the one that causes Zika. And that mosquito is here. It's prevalent. It's natural. It's here with us now. So, the other mosquito that's not mentioned here, that I'm going to mention real quickly, is a Culex mosquito. And the Culex mosquito is the one that causes West Nile virus. And we've actually had fatalities of West Nile last year and the year before. So it's very prevalent in our area. Right now,
The good news, if there is anything good, is that the Egypti mosquito, the Zika one and the dengue one, is for every 1 or 2 that we catch that are Egypti, there's 5 or 6 that are Culex. So the numbers are there, but they're not as high as we're concerned about yet. But the conditions are changing every day with this rain. And the conditions are changing rapidly. So right now, the Egypti numbers aren't as high, but the Culex numbers are high. But that concerns me too, because then I'm going to be dealing with West Nile and that type of illness. So it becomes a multiple-fold illness. So for us, when we're dealing with mosquito control, we're looking at controlling dengue, we're looking at controlling West Nile, we're looking at controlling Zika, we're looking at controlling chikungunya. We're looking at controlling all of them by doing the same task. So it's very important. This one bites, the Egypti primarily bites in the day and night. It bites below the knee. That's the one, you ever seen zancudos that kind of, you always get zancudos around your knee, ankles and that area? That's the Egypti. That likes going below the knee. It's very a soft biter. Sometimes you don't even know they're there. They're very, very, very nasty. Only the females are the ones that bite. Okay? The females are the ones that look for the blood host. The males are the ones that buzz around. You hear mosquito buzzing? That's a male. He doesn't bite. He eats nectar and stuff from different plants. That's how they survive. The female must get a blood to be able to lay eggs and lay larvae, and they could they could actually have up to 3 or 4 times, 3 times a lifetime. They could put eggs and up to 100 to 300 eggs. Josh, thank you for joining us, Josh. Everyone, I got to introduce. This is Josh Ramirez. I'm sorry I put him on the spot. The Director of Health for the City of McAllen. Josh is one of the foremost authorities in mosquito issues throughout the state. And he himself, last year, right, responded to Dallas area and Central Texas with the West Nile issue. Yeah, 2 years ago for West Nile issue. So their team responded to assist. So we're looking at this one. The thing with the Egypti mosquito, it loves humans. 95% of the time it'll feed off of humans almost exclusively. If it's out in the monte, well, if there's un coyote, un perro, un pájaro, un conejo, well, it'll feed off that. But if it prefers humans, that causes the problem because it likes being in the city. This mosquito likes being indoors. And the other thing, this mosquito only lays its eggs in clean water. It does, or near clean water. It doesn't do it in charcos or in canales or stuff like that. That's the Culex. That's the one that causes West Nile, that likes being outdoors and dealing with that. The Egypti is indoors, clean water. And it doesn't lay its eggs in the water. It's sneaky. It lays it around the moisture in those areas. So even if you dump your pan, your dog dish, for example, outside, you got to wipe it, because those eggs are in the rim on top, not necessarily in the water. So this is a very sneaky little mosquito. So it's interesting. That's why they've been around for millions of years. They're survivors. They figured it out. The next thing, what are the symptoms of Zika? The symptoms of Zika are real similar to other illnesses, but there's a couple of things that are unique. Fever, usually 99, 100, 101 fever. Rash, you break out in a rash in the area in your bodies. You have joint pain. Ay, me duele la espalda, me duele la cabeza, my head hurts, my back hurts, I'm sore, joint pain. The other thing that's unique, and muscles, headache, pain, but what's unique to Zika is what they call conjunctivitis. And conjunctivitis is an area that deals with the redness of the eyes. Some of you, like maybe some people that have high blood pressure and others, where the vessels in your eyes burst and it's red around the white of your eye, that's conjunctivitis. That's what makes Zika unique. That's one of the very first symptoms that you'll see in this. Now, what's interesting is the very first line up there. Here's the scary part. 80% of the people who are affected with Zika never know they have it. 80% of the people who have dengue don't know they have it. 80% of the people who have West Nile don't know they have it. What happens is that the people that symptoms really become prevalent are people who have weakened immune systems, medical history, medical complications. They're very young, babies, and the very old senior citizens and weakened immune system. That's who you see this with. So you could actually be carrying it and don't know it. One of the other symptoms and concerns is the microcephaly. Some of you remember back 20 years ago in the Valley, there was issues with microcephaly involving the birth of children who were born with birth defects, that their brains and their skulls were not fully developed. The problem is occurring with this. There is a correlation in the link between Zika and microcephaly in Brazil, Central America, South America. But Zika is not the only cause of microcephaly. I want to make that real clear. Microcephaly could be caused by the mother at the time of conception and during the development of the child is using drugs. There is some drug addiction. There's some genetic components to it. There's some environmental factors. Here in the Valley many years ago, they discovered a contamination of some water sources that caused complications in the development of the fetus, and that's what caused that microcephaly 20, 25 years ago. But the point being, Zika mosquitoes are not the only cause of microcephaly. So only because a baby's born with microcephaly does not mean that the mosquito caused it. So how does it transmit? Transmits directly from mosquito to human, and then the mosquito actually gets it from from other people who have the Zika virus. Zika virus actually started in 1947 in Uganda. In 1947, so it's been around for 60 years. It's been around a long time. So, but it's changed, it's altered, so we're looking at it. So it passes from mosquito to human. I'm infected with it. Right now in Texas, we have 40 humans that are infected with Zika in Texas. But they were all imported. Well, 39 are imported. One was through sexual transmission. I'll explain that in a second. The 39, what happens, believe it or not, those 39 humans, the job of the local health department is to keep mosquitoes from biting them. Because they have potential carriers that if a mosquito bites them, that mosquito gets infected, and then it'll pass it to the next person. So those people are kind of in a bubble. It's kind of weird how that works. So they're actually watching them to make sure that other mosquitoes aren't infected. So the one on sexual transmission, person traveled to South America, contracted Zika there. When they came back, there was pregnancy involved, and they saw the pregnancy with Zika. Then they checked the male. The male had contracted Zika and was able to transmit it through the semen. There is no indication of bodily fluid secretions in females. It's only been seen in males. So that's a concern that it is capable of transmitting through sexual intercourse via semen. In the baby, when the mommy is infected by a Zika mosquito in the developmental side, that's when the concern comes. So for us, the big red flag for us is microcephaly is a very, very emotionally driven illness. There's nothing worse than seeing a child born that's going to be disabled for the rest of their life because of such an illness. Microcephaly does occur here in Hidalgo County. Our case count is 0.00452 for every 10,000. Okay? The state of Texas actually has 3 times higher rates at 0.00135-ish in there per 10,000. So actually our microcephaly numbers are very, very, very low. So it's not something that's common. So we got to write that off the list right away. It's not something that you see all the time. So it's important. What are we doing? We're doing surveillance. We're doing mosquito trapping. We're working with our teams to do that. Mosquito trapping. We're doing landing counts. And I'm going to teach everybody here how to do a landing count. Everyone's going to walk out of here knowing how to do one. I have my khaki pants. I go outside, stand outside for 1 minute, and literally just count how many mosquitoes land on my leg. That's it. That's not real high tech. It doesn't take computers. It doesn't take high priced equipment. Stand outside, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you time yourself for 1 minute, see how many land on. If 2 or 3 land on you around this time, that's not bad. If 40 land on you, 50 land on you, we've had as many as 100 land on you, that's a problem. Okay? So I just taught you how to go back and do a mosquito count. All right? So it's not hard. We have our staff, and many of the staff in here are already doing those and keeping track where they're at, geographically, locations, and looking at all of that. We're sending our mosquitoes that we trap to the state laboratory in Austin. McAllen sending theirs to UT El Paso and UT Galveston, IMB. And UTRGV here, they've opened a facility in Brownsville, and they're about to open a laboratory facility here in Edinburgh. They've ordered their equipment, and over the next couple of weeks, they'll have their equipment here, and they'll have the capacity to test here. But the capacities in Brownsville, El Paso, Galveston, and, of course, the state lab, and we're working with all of them. That partnership has been going on in place for about a year and a half. We've been working with them and getting that going. How do we control adulticiding, the fogging? We all see the fogging. When we were kids, how many of you got on your bicycle and would chase the fog trucks, as they were spraying for mosquitoes? I did that. But the problem back then, it was DDT. And, well, that's a different story. But nowadays, it's a different chemical, okay? So we do the fogging. The only thing with fogging, it's about 30%. You guys, you're some of the experts here. It's about 30% effective. It is not the most effective way to do. But people like seeing it. They feel, they're doing it to a lot. But it's only 30% effective. You need to understand, you cannot fog if the wind is more than 10 miles an hour, humidity is more than 80%, or if it's raining. You can't do that. It's not going to work. You're going to waste your money. Okay? What's important, though, is that's why we go out and fog, and many of the partners here go out and fog very late at night or very early in the morning. The wind is calmer, and not only that, that's when the mosquitoes are the busiest. Okay? So that's when we do that. So a lot of times people get upset, pues yo te aviso, you haven't passed my neighborhood. All of us here, almost all the cities in the county, we GPS all the places we go because we have to report to the state where we've been and what we're doing. And we keep track of it because here's the kicker on fogging. If you fog too often, the next generation of mosquitoes will get immune to the poison, and it will not work anymore. So we cannot spray every day in the same place. We got to wait 2 or 3 days because every 2 generations, we got to wait at least 2 generations of larvae to get born so they don't get immune. It's very important. The most effective thing is adulticiding. Adulticiding, those little donuts or the granules that are thrown in standing water, and that puts a sheen of poison on there to kill all the larvae. That is the most effective way. Our precincts, our county, we're all doing that. Cities are doing that. That is the most effective way. However, in Hidalgo County, I can't say about the cities. We'll answer those questions in a little bit. But in Hidalgo County, we cannot go into private property. We can't. Okay? But we're coordinating with the DA's office that in the event that if a full-blown situation were to occur, we're exploring what options we have in the event that we have to do that for the safety and well-being of our community. But as of right now, we are not allowed to go into private property, at least through the county side. We cannot do that. So we're looking at that. So that adulticiding is very, very, very important. And it's important to look at. So we're working on that and getting that happen, making that happen. So if you could see, I don't know, you can see that little guy right there, that's Steve and Sakshi. They're out there trapping and collecting and doing all kinds of stuff to try to get some samples. The most important tool we have, that each and every one of you have, is education. 80% of our mosquito control can be done from home. Everyone needs to do their part. All our residents in every community must step up and do their part. Keep their lawns clean. Keep their yards clean. Make sure that water is not stopped from draining. Don't throw illegal dumping stuff in the culverts. Don't throw that in the drainage ditches. The water's got to drain out. If your city or someone sees an area that's blocked and it doesn't allow the draining to take place, help clean it out. That water needs to flow. The sooner it dries, the less the environment for the mosquitoes to grow. We have a vector control task force in Hidalgo County. And I got to thank Josh. Josh is one of the primary leaders for that in City of McAllen. This vector control task force, many of you know as mayors and city councilmen and women, that your vector control people, your mosquito people. Actually, we meet and we coordinate efforts all across the valley, all across the county. We actually did an inventory, and this is the part that is important. We called every city in the county and asked, what equipment do you have? Do you have supplies? Do you have these things? Many don't. Some have equipment, some don't have supplies, some have supplies, some don't have equipment. Our concern is that each of the cities need to really look and reevaluate what their assets are. The county cannot by itself provide for the entire Hidalgo County area. We do not have the assets and the capability to cover every single community in our county. But I feel as a collective, if all of us work together in Hidalgo County, we could keep this in check. So it's very important that we consider that. I'm going to explain how we're going to do that in a second. It's very important that we look at community education. Misty Palacios has done a fantastic job, and we have 10 large community coalitions that we're going to have a meeting June 22nd? June 22nd, where we're bringing all these 10 coalitions, and those 10 coalitions, they will then have another 10 or 15 coalitions below them. So they're going to help us educate the people in the community. But we need the cities to help with that. And here's how we need the cities to help. Steve, can you flip this for me? Just flip it around. Thanks. Chief Saldaña's here. The judge and commissioners are here. It's a very simple outfit. County's here. Okay? Of course, I work with the county commissioner's court and the county judge, and I report to Chief Saldaña. When it comes to emergency operations, that's who I go to. Chief Saldaña, the health department work together with the cities. Each of the cities is responsible to develop their own plan. No matter how small or how big, you need to go back to your city council and to your city and say, what can we do to help ourselves in our little community or our large community? What can we do? How can we coordinate? Your EMC at each of your cities works with chief. Your health people, like in the city of McAllen, they work with me. We all work together. But it's important you as city leaders need to understand that there is a structure. There is a structure to follow. And set that structure in your town. Not any different than your hurricanes or your floods or any different than a natural disaster. Same thing. You need to develop your structure for that. Very, very important. We got to work together to make this problem, to get it under control. We got to get ahead of this. We cannot stay behind it. I have other coalitions and agencies. Mr. Longoria's here from CAS. We're CSA, Community Services Agency. Some of the other departments are here. We're working very closely with each of the precincts and all their chiefs of staff. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, just one.
No, but they have.
I know, you're good.
Okay. All right, so what happens, they're working with each of the precincts and getting that going. But I need everyone to understand that they need to mobilize. The other thing is you need to take care of your own staff. I've been getting calls from cities. I have to thank Mr. Quintanilla. Roy, I'm not sure where you're at. But Roy's coordinating for Hidalgo County how we're protecting our own employees. We've ordered DEET product spray. We're making sure that the staff are wearing long sleeves, long pants while they're working out in those areas, especially those areas that were struck by the event just recently. So we got to encourage our own employees to take care of themselves and help themselves with those things. So Mr. Quintanilla, through risk management and our safety division, is assisting with some of those products to assist the employees. You need to consider that for your own employees as well. It's very important. Working together with our partners and our cities to create a united message. You all have material, handouts, English, Spanish. There's some USBs that we're going to hand out in a little bit that has all the digital data. You could go back and replicate everything that's here. Just print it. Put it on your water bills. Put it on each of your community centers. Anywhere you can, post it. Very important. Oh, again, we have a problem with tires. I'm just going to bring it up. We have a problem with tires. Everybody has a problem with tires. I cannot fix 50,000 tires. No one can fix that right now. But we can fix our little backyard issues. We can encourage our community members to clean up their area. If you have the capacity to collect some of those tires, even at a small ratio in your city, and put them in a location or remediate them properly, if you have that capacity, do it. If you don't have that capacity, we need to educate the people to keep those tires dry and clean, even if it means covering them or something. We just got to keep that environment from being available for mosquitoes. Picking up trash, looking at different things, weedy lots, keeping them clean, illegal dumping them, picking them up, doing all those things. We need to look at this together. You cannot spray this problem away. This is not going to get fixed by spraying. It's going to get fixed by cleaning. It's going to get fixed by taking part at home. You need to encourage your residents in your cities, fix your window screens, fix your door screens. We're working with Lowe's, Home Depot, McCoy's. Did I get them all, Misty? Lowe's, Home Depot, McCoy's, and we're talking to H-E-B and Walmart also, that you don't have to fix the entire marco for your screen, even if you did the screen through the inside, or you just tacked it on the wall, por dentro. It's not going to be pretty, but it's going to keep the mosquitoes out of your house. That's what's important, getting that going. Here's some key addresses. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Hidalgo Health, one long word. We put messages up there in English and Spanish. Follow us on Twitter. Julia, where's Julia?
I'm back here.
Julia done a great job in her team with Facebook and social media. They put up a lot of information. There's some other information sites. TexasZika.org. TexasZika.org has tons of material that you just print it. They even have PSAs in English and in Spanish. In some of you cities that have the media capability to develop, you have your own TV station. Some of the school districts that have their own TV station, download those PSAs. Put your name on there. Put City of Palmview, City of Palmhurst, City of McAllen, City of whatever. Put your city on there. Mission School District, McAllen School. Put your name on there. You can get the credit for it. That's what they're for. Use them. CDC.gov has a lot of information. And then also the EPA. The EPA has a lot of information, and there's some funding available through the EPA for cities. Look into that. Very important to get equipment to deal with some of these issues. The main number for us is 383-6221. Many of you in this room already have my cell number. Call me. I'll be happy to answer your questions. But the main thing is community education. There is also, and Misty, at our website, you'll see it, and Misty's got some posters we're going to give to some folks that are dealing with what we call eco-prevention, or ecological ways to prevent mosquitoes. There is some natural plants and things that are not the only answer. I don't want you thinking because you put that certain plant that's going to keep all the mosquitoes away. No. But there's some eco-friendly methods to help deal with mosquitoes. But that, in conjunction with everything else, helps lessen the opportunity. So there is a list of plants and different things. It's in the packet. Here you go. This one, it's in your packet. That there's some methods to be able to deal with that. But the plants are support of everything else. But it's a nice way to do it. This gives the person ownership to fixing and making things better in their yard. I'm going to pause right here, and I know there's tons of questions, and I probably missed a lot of things. So actually, look at me. You didn't talk about this. You didn't say this. My team's already like, you forgot to say this. I'm going to pause right here. We have Brent from AgriLife. We work very closely with them. Let me ask this. First of all, as a city, if you're part of this assessment, we may be sending that out again. How many equipment you people have? How many trucks? How many pumps? What supplies you have? We have the list. The number one question that cities ask us, how do I get people licensed? Because you got to be a licensed applicator. You can't just do it. You have to go through a state test and get in your requirements. Brett, can you kind of give us a quick overview? Licensing real quick?
And how the city can get people licensed?
Be glad to, Eddie.
it is very important that everyone have a license. If you've got a crew that's doing spraying, you can do applications, but you must do it under the supervision of someone who's licensed. So every city and every precinct needs to have someone with a non-commercial pesticide license issued by Texas Department of Agriculture and have that vector control category.
Can you give a phone number if they have questions?
I'll be glad to.
It's through the Texas Department of Agriculture, right?
The license is issued by Texas Department of Agriculture. Myself, I'm a resource to help people get licensed. My name is Brad Cowan. I'm a county extension agent for agriculture. We're part of the Texas A&M system and a county office of county government here. I'm an educator. I'm not a regulator. But we work closely with TDA, who is the regulator in this case, and it's very important that each of you understand that there are pesticide regulations that we must comply with here in the state of Texas. So my job is to help educate and get folks smart enough to pass these exams that TDA has that are a requirement. So not everyone that drives a fog truck needs to have a license, but they need to be working under the supervision of someone who does. So I'll have some cards here, and you can pick a card up, and I'll be glad to help get your people licensed. It is a very hard thing to do. The license is difficult to get, but we'll try to help you as best we can.
So that's real important. So that way the cities could look at that. Judge, I went as fast as possible through the presentations, Judge. I will stand by for questions or comments.
You did a very commendable job.
Thank you, sir.
You and your staff need to be commended for this presentation. This is the first time that I've heard this and that we have heard this. And I had no idea the mosquitoes were that much of a hazard.
Oh, yes.
What was that number of people that died?
750,000 throughout the world.
And I made some notes about what I thought was important from your presentation. Fogging, which I thought was the ultimate, is not very effective. Donuts are the best way.
The larviciding. Not Dunkin' Donuts. The larviciding. I prefer the Dunkin' with cafecito, but sorry, Judge.
And everyone must do their part. We need to cooperate on the inventory in order to be ready. Make sure that everybody has what is needed to be able to do the work that's going to be needed. We all need to work together. We need to get ready, and I wanted to make sure that everyone here knew our emergency management coordinator, Mr. Rick Saldana. Rick,
Chief.
where are you?
Right behind you, sir.
This is Rick Saldana. He's the one in charge of emergency management here in the county. He works under the county judge's office.
Judge, can you go over the letter that Commissioner's Court passed yesterday? Is that okay?
Go over the what?
The letter that you all passed is going to be sent out. Just kind of brief them on that.
This is the one that's inviting people, isn't it? Dear Mayor, we've sent a letter to every mayor that you ought to be getting sometime this week. As you are aware, there's been a significant amount of discussion over the past few months related to an anticipated Zika virus outbreak. Eddie keeps telling us that it's not a matter of if, it's going to be mainly a matter of when. And we want to make sure that we are somewhat ready or ready in the event it does happen and people start getting overly concerned or concerned about the issue. This letter is to inform you of our efforts to educate our constituents regarding the prevention of the Zika virus. We are requiring your support for a joint campaign that will provide valuable information regarding individual prevention efforts that we can all undertake. In addition to this effort, we are encouraging cities and other public entities to attain the tools for preventing an outbreak of the virus. Cities are being encouraged to have appropriate reserves of larvicide and adulticide. Furthermore, identification of funds by local governing boards for this cause is essential for prevention of a Zika virus outbreak. We thank you for your prompt attention to this matter and look forward to working in unison with all cities in furtherance of these prevention efforts. This stresses the fact that we are all in this together, and we need to work together to avoid any serious matter from arising in our county.
Sir, with your permission, I'm open to questions from the city officials that are around us, and I know we're going to do a press release in a little bit.
Either one of them may have a comment to make on this issue.
I know we talked about education. Is there anything on the state? I know some of the cities, there are big cities, there are small cities. There are some that have resources and some that don't. Have you looked at the potential chance of any state resources, federal resources in regards to some of the larvicides, some of the stuff that they can help their communities? Have you looked at that? And then
Yes.
The other question that I have is, like anything else, government is as close to the people as you make it. So I know we can talk about it all here, but how do we get to the doorsteps of people? Are we hoping to do a coalition where we do town hall meetings? We have to figure out a way how we not just talk about it, but how can it get to the doorsteps of their people?
Question number one, there is very limited funding coming from the federal government and from the state. Up front, I went and testified at the Senate a couple of weeks ago. I was one of only 3 health directors in the state of Texas. The Dallas health director, the Harris County health director, and myself were the only ones that testified in front of the Senate. Funding is very limited. There's only $52 million been allocated to the entire United States by the CDC. The state of Texas gets $1.5 million of that, and half of that is being used for media, and the other half is being used by the lab system. So we're actually getting very little to none.
Okay, this is going to come to my next point. Obviously, the prevalent time for mosquitoes is during the summertime,
Yes,
moisture. Has the county thought of probably heavily prone, low-lying areas, something that we can partner up with cities and saying, for a period of time, we're going to receive a lot of the potential tires that can come from these low-lying areas. I know we have our transfer stations. I know this is the first time I mentioned it to other commissioners, but I think it's time, if there's limited assets, how can the county play a role, not just within our rural population, but our more urbanized, smaller cities?
Sure.
I mean, we got to figure something out.
One of the things, Commissioner, that I would recommend to you and each of the commissioners and the county judge, and of course the mayors and city councilmen and city councilwomen, is that there needs to be a collaborative effort between the precincts and each of the cities within those precincts. And there needs to be a coordinated effort between emergency management and each of those communities, and that to coordinate an effort to help remediate some of those areas. I do not know the capacity that Precinct 1 has versus Precinct 3 or Precinct 2 versus Precinct 4. Each of those precincts have different capacities, but the key thing is that the cities and the communities within those precincts need to be openly having a dialogue with your departments and with your precincts to help coordinate efforts together. But I need to stress that really we need help from everyone. This is not just a precinct county issue. We all need to work together. So, and can I answer the question on the coalitions also while I'm there? I need to actually acknowledge our team has done a very good job. Like I said, Ms. Palacios, Misty's been working with 10 large coalitions. And you get the large coalitions that they themselves oversee another 15 or 20 groups of coalitions. So yesterday, for example, or a couple of days ago, we went and gave a presentation at A&M Colonias project. There was 20 people in that room, but those 20 people represented 5,000 people. See what I'm saying? And those 20 people are mobilizing right now. They're going to get to 5,000 people, those 20. All right? That's only one coalition. And they help 10 other coalitions, and they're going to mobilize those 10 other coalitions. So it's going to have to be a trickle-down effect for all those coalitions support each other. We're working with Lupe, working with Arise, working with the diocese. We're having a meeting with the diocese and working with Methodist healthcare systems and Methodist, the Wesley Nurses Program, and working with them. We need to get the message out. However, mayors, councilmen, councilwomen, you have your community coalitions as well. You have your churches. You have your community leaders. You know who you work with in your community. You got a packet of information. Help them print that out, get that out. They need to walk the streets. They need to go hang door hangers. They need to put information. The more information you help us get to the public in your community, the safer our county is going to be.
Eddie, just my last question. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm so sorry.
That's all you want, sir.
I used to be a medic. No, my last question is, obviously we're trying to educate the public. Let's assume they start becoming more aware of the symptoms.
Yes, sir.
What do we tell them? What do we educate them of where to go? were to be tested.
Right.
I'm certain that that's going to come up. Can you just kind of run through that?
Very good. First of all, is there a cure for Zika? The answer is no. There isn't. There is no vaccine. There is no cure. There is medication that that'll help lessen the symptoms. That's the problem with these illnesses. So what happens, what we're doing right now, we're following CDC guidance. The CDC has made it very clear, especially for pregnant women that travel to those countries, Central America, South America, those areas where Zika is prevalent. We got the Olympics happening. A lot of people are going to be traveling to an area that Zika is very common and prevalent. We have mothers right now who are traveling into southern Mexico, other countries in South America, and they return back from vacation, work, or visiting family, and they are going to their local doctors, their physicians. Their physicians have been given instructions. Steve and the EPI team work with our physicians every day, and we have many, many mothers, and I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but there's many, many mothers who are being tested as we speak for Zika exposure, because that's the guidance the CDC has told us to follow. We're taking it very serious, very serious. Now, let me explain something. If you're not traveling to those countries, you don't have Zika, okay? You don't. You don't. The other thing we're explaining and encouraging all doctors, there's something called, if you see yourself with these symptoms, there's something called an arboviral panel. It's a medical test that the doctors can do that tests for dengue, West Nile, St. Louis encephalitis, and chikungunya. Those are part of that test. If you test negative for all of those and you still have symptoms, then you're a candidate for Zika testing because you've already tested negative for those. Then we look at that. But your doctor will make that determination. Steve, we have docs who are sending stuff to the CDC right now for testing, localized, but they meet a certain criteria. It's not open to everybody. There's a criteria, there's a checklist that gets answered, and then that testing gets sent to the CDC. The CDC in Atlanta is the only one that could test for Zika. Cities, don't fall for someone who's calling you and say, I have a Zika test, let me charge it to your insurance. Let me work with your employees and we'll test for Zika. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm trying to do best for my employees. It's a scam, guys. The only one that could test for Zika is the CDC and the state laboratory now. DSHS laboratory in Austin. It's not Eddie Olivares Laboratories. It's not ABC Acme Laboratory System out of Timbuktu, Alaska. No. CDC and Department of State Health Services lab. So don't fall for that game because there's a lot of people out there doing that. Judge.
Well, you provided a lot of information for us today, but I think it is time that we open it up for questions.
Very good, sir. Open to questions. From any city. Julia, right that direction? Okay, cities, any of you. Yes, ma'am.
We talked about the 3 days that you got to give time from the spraying.
Approximately 3 days, depending on weather, of course.
So what are we're looking at? We have a rainstorm. How many weeks do we look at? And so that we know that we're spacing it and timing, and so that we can also get supplies.
So, Sakshi, incubation period, it rains, mosquito larvae, how long do they last and breed? How long before we see? Come on over here with me.
Why don't you come out here in the center, Mia?
Yeah, come on out here. That's it. Okay. Go ahead. Explain. So what happens, the incubation period, timelines, what are we looking at, Sak?
Okay, the incubation period of
Look
the
at them.
disease. Apologize.
She's a scientist, guys. Okay, so...
So the incubation period of Zika is usually about a week. 1 to 7 days is what's been established. It can go up to about 12 days, but about a week is what you're seeing for Zika. Yeah.
Her question was, though, after a big rainstorm, and we see the mosquitoes beginning to lay, and how long before those mosquitoes become literally from conception to laying the larva to eggs to larva, how long is that time period before those mosquitoes start flying?
Oh, about a couple of weeks, usually. Yeah. So the life cycle usually goes from you have eggs, and then they go from eggs to larvae to pupae, and then pupae adults. So
10 to 14 days?
10 to 14 days.
So 10 to 14 days.
7 days.
Get closer. Josh is saying 7 days.
Josh thinks 7 days.
Yeah, we have so 7 to 10 days, depending on the conditions. But remember, it's going to be reoccurring. It's going to be reoccurring. Like right now, I haven't noticed mosquitoes in my house the last couple of days, but last night I took my dogs out, and boy, they just hit me hard, and I knew that's it. That's going to be a timeline. Other question?
Well, the thing is just you have to make it clear. Sometimes we need to be very scientific, and right now what we need to answer is after a big rain, how many days is best recommended to spray?
Oh.
So that would also depend on wind speed and a lot of other conditions. I think Josh come up also.
Josh, come up. This guy really, Josh, he is the expert.
I'm just another worker. Thank you. And been here for a long time. Okay. One of the best thing to do once the rain came by already. Start by removing the standing water from the properties. Look at the containers. Look at the standing waters that you have throughout the fields, throughout the properties. If you have areas where you cannot drain, then throw the donuts, not Dunkin' Donuts, but the regular donuts, and the granules as well. It depends on the locations. Now, the mosquitoes will start hatching within 7 days. We've seen it sooner, but then the climate conditions have to be, it has to be real hot, of course, 90 degrees, real hot, sunny. It's very sunny outside. So the climate plays a big role on how fast mosquitoes can hatch. But normally it's 7 to 12 days.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Other question? Other questions?
Can you please raise your hand so we can get around to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a mic. Francisco Martinez, Sirio Hidalgo. Thank you for the invitation. And it's very difficult for small cities, like you're saying. Basically, we live just nearby the border.
Right.
And we have a lot of issues from pregnant women trying to cross to Mexico to Reynosa. If there's no Zika in Reynosa, what's the point telling the people that are pregnant not to go to Mexico, to those places? I know you explained it already, that if there's no Zika in that place, there's no problem. But we need more information to not...
Don't panic.
Don't panic the people that they're just crossing the border to go and shop and come back. That's one point. The other one is the tires. I know Mr. Judge Ramon Garcia is doing a great job, but sometimes he hit it on the right way. What can we expect as help to throw the tires, dump the tires? Where do you have a place here in the county that is useful? So it's all only going and trying to prevent, but we need help doing that. And also with the information that we're providing as cities, that we're small cities, sometimes we don't have enough budget to buy some pellets. We don't have enough budget to purchase the sprays. And we do need the help from the county. We need the help not only by information, but on providing the correct, not education, but the correct ways to dispose and to dispose the tires, the trash that we're trying to clean up. I know that we had Granjeno and Hidalgo was hit very hard, but the thing is that we're trying to get the best way possible the information to the people, pass it out door by door, but sometimes it's difficult because they try to say, well, I don't want to give too much trash through the website, but what is the best possible way that we can receive help from the county or from the state?
Let me answer those questions. First of all, the question about traveling to Mexico, we've made it very clear to the CDC and to the state. For us, our economics really depends on a lot of tourism, a lot of work in going to Mexico. Local physicians already know. If you're traveling into Reynosa, Progreso, cerquitas, local physicians are making that determination whether to take any testing or things like that. If you're going into Chiapas, Jalisco, and those areas, that's a different ballgame. But it's up to the physician and the person who's getting tested or potentially tested to make that determination. As far as going to Mexico to do business along the border, do business as usual. But the reality is between the mother and the physician to determine what course they're going to go. But as far as a danger in traveling to Reynosa, Matamoros, those areas, There's no danger going over there. As far as from Zika point of view, there is no concern in that. As far as the tires, I know our Commissioners Court, TCEQ, our South Texas delegation, they're all looking at correcting this problem. This is a statewide problem. It's not only a valley problem. It's statewide an issue, and I know that they're looking at ways to deal with the tire remediation and dealing with that. The county does not have a large-scale way to remediate tires. But I know some of the precincts, except some, I'm not sure if they're doing that, but at a low scale, low amounts, not 100, 200, 300 tires. And I know that there's procedures for that. I'm not sure, Commissioner Judge, I don't know if anyone wants to say on that.
People, whether permit, they can take a set of 4 tires to the collection site, and so.
But it's not like
an extra tire or 2. I mean, we let them go
right.
and take them in. I know that's one of the major problems for mosquitoes. They collect a lot of water in there, whether they're laying down or standing up. But water is in there.
So one of the things I said at the U.S. Senate hearing, that the state of Texas needs to work with TCEQ, and the state needs to come up with their answer was just fine people, give them a multa. That's not the answer. The answer is, where are we going to take these tires to? So I know, and I'm not going to get into the tire debate, but I know that this is a discussion that maybe we need to bring up to our South Texas delegation for this coming session, that there needs to be some discussion of how to remediate the tires permanently. Bury them, do something, but at a large scale. We're talking thousands of tires, not 1 or 2 tires, thousands of them.
About a year, 2 years ago, the city of FAR, they went out there and they offered a certain amount of money. I don't remember the amount.
To collect the tires.
To people to bring in the tires and get compensated. I mean, they started going to McAllen and bringing them over here, which was great. I mean, we were able to dispose of more tires, but that seemed to be something that worked.
Right, and there was a company that took them and destroyed them and then buried them.
Now, Eddie, I may suggest, it's just a suggestion at this point because we're not really set up for it just yet, but in helping the cities,
perhaps through the environmental department as well as emergency management, when cities locate problematic areas, low-lying areas, could be in residential lots where they have a tire issue. There's where we could potentially partner, work with city, county on receiving, if in fact they deemed it an area of concern.
Right.
Where they can collect them and then somehow in a partnership deal where we receive those tires. I think that's where we can go to assist the cities.
So would you be open to work with the EMC and those cities together?
Right, but I would highly suggest that it would start from an environmental side and the emergency management. So only look at those areas because we don't want to open up Pandora's box because there is a charge for the county to dispose of them.
Sure.
While we're working on permanent solutions to address the tire issues.
Yeah, and this is a cost issue for all of us. I mean, all of us have budgetary restraints. But the only way we're going to be able to get ahead of this game with the mosquitoes is if all of us contribute and do our part and work together as a coordinated, unified command structure. That is the only way we're going to get ahead of it. And that's what this meeting is about. Any other questions?
Actually, if I could just talk a little bit about the travel information a little bit more. When we're talking about travel to Mexico, you're absolutely right. When we first started about just the first case that was locally acquired in Mexico, they basically said, anybody traveling to Mexico, right, that's a problem. We have talked back and forth with CDC. And I think that's when the education component comes in because the disease is spreading in different places in the world. And it keeps updating. So when we talk about education in our community, we're going to have to keep educating people and keep them updated on where the disease is. So, for instance, right now we have no problems of local transmission right across the border. But if we do have, then that's a different education component that we need to add. So keeping updated on where to travel is also a really big education component that we're going to have to keep updated.
But you could go to the cdc.gov website, and they actually have an area, Zika travel alerts. And you go there and they'll tell you where the travel alerts are at. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
A suggestion, or maybe a thought. Let's say we were able to do a morning pickup of tires. We picked up 600 tires in less than about 2.5 hours. We have to pay $2 to dispose that. If there was a way that we could work we still be willing to pay, but if you charge us $1, we can get double the amounts. I think that would be great help, because not only the incentives, we're going to pick them up, but we also know that we cannot dispose them. We have the community, as soon as we announce it, they bring them. They will bring them. But I think if there was a way that we could find and coordinate that, maybe in 1 week, for that particular week, we'll be able to facilitate it at a discount with whoever it is that we dispose of. I think we can definitely help the communities to be motivated to get even more and get the community.
Right.
Designate it so
Right.
that we can double what we're picking up, because it is a concern. If we go from 2 to 1,
Right.
and double what we pick up.
And that's a great idea. But let me just emphasize something that's very important. Tires are easy to focus on because that's a big problem. But remember, the majority of the problem could be solved if everyone did other things. Cut their grass, drain their water. If everyone does their part, you'd be surprised how much easier it would be. The tires, yes, that's a huge problem, but that's a bigger problem for a different level of discussion. But the average viewer that's watching this today, if everyone does their part at home, it'll go a long way. Follow the 4 Ds. Use DEET products to keep mosquitoes off you. Dress in long sleeves, long pants when you're outside doing activity. Dawn and dusk, that's when the mosquitoes are the most active. Drain your water, very important. We have one of the things we're working on, ecological ways to deal with this. We're encouraging folks, fix your window screens, fix your door screens. We're encouraging people, there are some babies who are allergic to DEET and some people who are. Get eucalyptus. You could get eucalyptus oil. And one of the things that Ms. Palacios has brought up in educating everyone is, those humidifiers you could buy, wherever, the box stores. Get some eucalyptus oil, put a few drops of that in that humidifier in your baby's room, like for your baby or grandchild, and just spray that eucalyptus and naturally goes out. Keeps mosquitoes away. It helps prevent it. It doesn't stop them. This is not a cure-all, but it helps un poquito to keep the mosquitoes away from those areas. So it's very important that we look at that. So I'm open to one more question or so, and then we'll deal with the media, if you like. Yes, sir.
I just want to get back to the mosquito real quick, the main culprit we're talking about here. Just to explain, Eddie, real quick, just to reiterate, understanding the mosquito comes late at night, early in the morning, down till dusk. But can you explain maybe a misconception or misunderstanding? The mosquito, because of the weather right now, it's susceptible, comes out a lot. But does the mosquito, I guess more of a question, does it survive all year round, even in winter?
Our mosquitoes here live year-round, okay? The only way a mosquito will die is if the weather temperature gets below 40 degrees for like 7 or 8 straight days. Otherwise, cold weather is not going to kill them, okay?
Also, Aedes aegypti, the specific mosquito, it's not just dusk and dawn. It'll bite you in day, pretty much. It's a day biter, and it'll bite you at night. So,
yeah, it's
indoors and outdoors.
It doesn't discriminate. This one's a pretty nasty critter. It doesn't discriminate. But what happens, though, what's important, everyone has this thinking that, no, once it gets close to little mosquitoes. That's not true. They're around. And not only that, but the larva, once they lay their eggs and it goes into larva form, how long can the larva survive?
So it can survive, the eggs actually can survive even in dry climate for a lot of months, like up to 3 to 6 months sometimes.
So it's an issue.
Wait for rain.
So I'm not here to scare you all. I'm here to let you know that just like you're going to leave here knowing more information than you did before you came in, I challenge each and every one of you to go back home to your city councils, to your school districts, and educate. Put it in your water bills. Put information in your water bills. Put information in your Boys and Girls Clubs. Put information at your parks. Go to your church. Give information at your church. All of you must go out and educate. We can't do it all by ourselves. We need your help to really focus in on these issues. Judge, I'll leave it here. If you like, if there's any other questions, I'll follow your lead, Judge.
Well, is there anyone here that has a question that would like to ask before we adjourn? We're going to be adjourning so that the media can then start making the...
There's one back over here, Chief. And Judge, sorry. Chief, hi, good to see you, Chief.
Yes, you mentioned that you touched on it at the beginning. The private property is not being being able to go in there. We
Right.
have a lot of those. We have a lot of abandoned properties.
Right.
And I know it's a law of some kind, but
Great question.
how can we approach that for maybe the state or whoever can relax
Here's
that law?
here's
for
how we
them
can look at
amount of
it. Chief, I'm glad you brought that up. Cities have a lot of power that the county does not have. A city can actually set up a city ordinance where you could set up your abatement laws, like the city of McAllen, city of FAR, others have abatement laws that you could go in, cut the grass, clean up the yard, and if the person doesn't pay for it, you pay. It happened to me in Mission. My parents own a vacant lot there in Mission. My mom didn't get the grass cut. Next thing I knew, I got a bill for $200 from the city of Mission for cutting the grass in my parents' yard. They said, we don't know where to find your parents, but we know where you live, Eddie, so we sent you a bill. So I paid the $200. I called my mom. Mom, you owe me $200. She goes, ay, mijo, I forgot to tell you. But if I didn't pay that $200, they're going to put a lien on the property. Cities can do that. Cities can do that. That's how the cities can do it. The county is exploring that. We're not there yet. The county is reviewing that with the DA's office and the commissioners. We're not anywhere close to it, but we're definitely looking at different levels of it. But the cities, if you don't have that ordinance, you might want to investigate, see what it takes to get that ordinance. But I know the city of McAllen is a great example, and I would, Josh has been a great supporter of cities who have that question and how to work and getting that ordinance in your city and keeping those things clean. Very important.
All right.
That's it, Marty, Myra, that's it.
Well, we want to thank everyone for making time to be here. You know, we're all in this together. We need to work together. We may sound like we're creating a sense of urgency, but it's only to avoid an emergency. If there's no other questions at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are now adjourned. And I believe you're going to be talking to the media.
Thank you.